I'm Acting General Manager of SSROC, and first of all, I'll let you know that this meeting is being recorded. I'd like to start by acknowledging and paying my respects to the Darug, Eora and Darawal people, the traditional custodians of the land on which I am today, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. And looking at our attendance list today, I'm happy to welcome people to this meeting who gathered from many other places. And I acknowledge also the traditional custodians of all those lands. And I'd like to acknowledge all the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here today and pay my respects to your elders, past, present and emerging. Thank you all for joining us today to learn a little about SSROC's Paving the Way initiative. This is the first project in our Procure Recycled programme that demonstrates how councils can help to establish a circular economy. And first, I would very much like to welcome our introductory speaker, Mr. James Griffin MP, Member for Manly, Parliamentary Secretary for the Environment and Veterans, and importantly for many of us, also former Mayor of Manly, so very familiar with local government and our waste management and civil works concerns. James Griffin MP, thank you very much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to provide some opening remarks to the webinar this morning. My internet connection should hopefully hold up, and we'll give it a go. But I too would very much like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm calling from today, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects and indeed our respects to elders past, present and future. I'm very pleased to be joining you today as in my capacity as the Parliamentary Secretary for the Environment, representing Minister Keane. And I would like to very much commend the Southern Sydney Regional Organisation of Councils, or SSROC, on its Paving the Way initiative, and participating councils for their enthusiasm in taking part. We would all be very aware that joint procurement programs can and very much do deliver excellent value for money and help achieve better environmental outcomes across the board. And Paving the Way is no exception, with the objective of creating an end market for about 1/3 of glass collected through participating councils. The New South Wales Government is also committed to achieving better waste and recycling outcomes, modernising the waste sector and ensuring a clean environment. A 20-year waste strategy is currently being developed that will set the long-term direction for a sustainable, accessible and affordable waste and resource recovery system in New South Wales. The strategy will set goals to reduce waste, increase recycling, plan future infrastructure and create new markets for recycled products. It will facilitate the transition to a circular economy by ensuring waste materials are recycled and re-enter the economy to drive business and various employment opportunities. As many of you on this webinar would be aware, a circular economy doesn't work unless we have sustainable and resilient markets for recycled products. We've all seen the impact of the closure of recycling export markets over the past few years, leading to rising costs of waste management. Coupled with the federal government's export ban on glass, plastic, paper and tyres, it is imperative that we build the capacity to manage our waste locally. And this means strengthening our ability to use recycled products right here in New South Wales through manufacturing of infrastructure projects. It also means we need to get the right facilities and systems in place to collect, sort and process waste. You would all know that these are not easy tasks and require the combined effort of all levels of government, the waste resource recovery sector and manufacturers. It means that we need to work hard to create pathways for recycled material to re-enter the productive economy. Through our strategy development, we've considered the most effective ways the New South Wales Government can improve markets for priority materials such as glass. Options have included boosting demand by using more recycled material in infrastructure projects, developing standards or certifications for recycled content, industry and government to address information barriers. We're also looking at ways to plan for critical waste infrastructure and to make it easier to develop waste and circular economy facilities. I can assure you we're working hard on the strategy to address short and long-term challenges around waste management and the circular economy, and we do very much look forward to releasing the strategy shortly. Our government is also supporting new recycling processing capacity with Wales for applications earlier this month. This is a $35 million program co-funded with the Commonwealth and aims to build new capacity to process waste materials targeted by the export ban. This again includes glass. Remanufacture New South Wales builds upon the significant investment the New South Wales government has already made in the local resource recovery sector through our $802 million Waste Less, Recycle More program, which was the largest of its kind in Australia. So once again, I'd like to reiterate my congratulations to the Southern Sydney Regional Organisation of Councils and the participating councils of Paving the Way for really stepping up to the plate and charting a new way forward for creating demand for recycled materials. You are providing excellent leadership in taking responsibility for using waste that is generally generated locally, and I hope that many more councils will be able to follow in your footsteps. I think it's very fair to say that there is almost an assumption now throughout our communities that this is what governments will support and that they will do, and there is an expectation that that this is what, as local government and the state government, these sorts of projects and initiatives that we will work together on to deliver a better environment and really help to work collaboratively to create a true circular economy. So I look forward to seeing this project unfold, seeing your successes and learnings applied and absolutely replicated across New South Wales. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to provide some opening remarks, and wish you all the best with the rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James, and thank you very much for your very active support and encouragement. And yes, I'm sure a lot of us here are very much looking forward to getting that 20-year waste strategy. So before we get going into the presentations part, can I ask please that everybody use the chat function to enter any questions and comments? You'll find that at the bottom of your screen. Just click on that and the chat function will open. That way we'll be able to monitor all questions and comments coming in, and we can, if we can't deal with them now, we'll be following up with an email after this morning's session. And as I mentioned earlier, this session is also being recorded. A lot of people have been involved in this project, and I can see that many of the names on this list, that many of you have been involved in this project. But our three speakers, Justin, Mark and Kathy, have been particularly important to the team. So I'll hand over now to SSROC Strategic Lead for Waste and Resource Recovery, Justin Bonzi, who's going to take us through the rest of the session.
All right, I think we're good here. Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Helen, and thank you, Mr. Griffin, for your fantastic opening statement. This is a strong reminder for me that industry and all levels of government are close allies in the biggest shift to a circular economy Australia has ever seen. For those who aren't familiar with us, the Southern Sydney Regional Organisation of Councils is an incorporated association of 11 councils spanning Sydney's southern suburbs, eastern suburbs, CBD, and inner west, covering a third of Greater Sydney's population of 1.7 million people. These councils collectively manage about 20% of the waste in New South Wales. SSROC provides a forum through which our member councils can interact, exchange ideas, and work collaboratively to solve regional issues and contribute to the future sustainability of the region. SSROC's Procure Recycled Paving the Way initiative has achieved a significant breakthrough for the circular economy by engineering a coordinated approach by 15 Sydney councils to aggregate demand for asphalt with RCG as a substitute for natural sand, creating a framework for the largest local government-led procurement of its kind in New South Wales history. It has created a local closed-loop market for about a third of participating councils' domestic glass collections, or the equivalent of 70 million glass bottles per year, which will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and is already supporting essential infrastructural development in the Sydney region. A best practice contract model will monitor and report on sustainability KPIs and facilitate innovation by enabling councils to upgrade to more sustainable materials as they become available. Paving the Way supports the stabilization of council recycling costs by increasing the value of curbside glass, aligns with state and federal circular economy and government procurement policies, and sets a framework for future initiatives to increase recycled content in roads. I would also like to acknowledge the significant funding contribution from the New South Wales EPA through Waste Less, Recycle More and other grant funding that has made this possible. SSROC is guided by robust waste management and resource recovery principles, established by all of our councils through our Waste Strategy Steering Group. One of the most important of these is taking responsibility for the waste we generate and doing everything in our power to minimize and manage it ourselves. As you're all aware, in 2017, China announced a virtual ban on imports of Australian recycling, which the coalition of Australian governments followed up by announcing our own ban on exports of most recyclable materials. This presented a significant challenge due to the lack of onshore processing infrastructure and end markets for these materials. Poor demand drove down the price of recyclable materials, leading to huge stockpiles, and drove up the cost of SSROC Council recycling services by over 200%. I imagine everyone remembers the ABC Four Corners report from August 2017, showing warehouses of stockpiled glass. This was the scale of the challenge. But with the challenge came an even bigger opportunity to finally get it right by taking responsibility for the waste we generate and using it as a resource to drive a more sustainable local economy. The question was how to do it. When councils band together, we can have enormous sway over the market, and this is what SSROC councils did. Of all the recyclable materials targeted by the ban, glass, plastics, tires, paper, and cardboard, glass was the easiest to solve. Only about 65% of curbside glass has local markets in Sydney, with high potential and civil works. High curbside recycling tonnages means high gate fees and a high cost of recycling. A number of SSROC councils, as well as councils across Australia, have been trialing recycled crushed glass in roads for a decade and have proven it to be safe and a well-performing substitute for natural sand. It should be noted that this procurement targets only the low-grade mixed glass at MRFs that is not used for making bottles. It does not target container deposit glass, which has a higher market price that ensures it will continue to be used for bottle remanufacturing. Through a series of workshops with SSROC councils, the New South Wales EPA, former RMS, now Transport for New South Wales, WAMA, NatSpec, and other public works and industry bodies, in 2018, we identified a range of barriers that could make or break the initiative. These barriers helped us identify the solutions. The biggest challenge in the beginning was a lack of awareness that councils had been trialing RCG in roads since 2017, demonstrating it to be a safe and well-performing substitute for natural sand. In 2018, specifications on RCG in roads were still in the making, let alone aligned between local and state roads. The next major issue was insufficient regional beneficiation capacity and demand for RCG to drive investment. And if you do go to the market, will RCG be more expensive? The answer was no. Even councils that were ready some years ago to source asphalt with RCG couldn't generate enough demand to get competitive or sometimes any response from the market. So key here would be aggregating enough demand to create a favorable environment for infrastructure investment. As many of you who have tried to find accurate waste data know, detailed composition and end market data can be very difficult to find. In New South Wales, data on material fate is often obscured by the Protection of the Environment Operations, or POEO Act, and MRFs don't readily provide it given commercial sensitivities. So we had to get resourceful, then make the best assumptions we could. A major part of this was commissioning an RCG value chain analysis from our project engineer, Mark Wood, who was able to piece the story together from data and industry conversations. The main thing here was understanding how much surplus glass SSROC generates and not taking glass away from bottle remanufacturing. To bring together council teams whose responsibilities rarely overlapped, we formed working groups with each team, whom we engaged systematically with the information most relevant to them, emphasizing how each team fit into the bigger picture. Finally, was change. Change can be risky, but doing nothing in response to the systemic shocks that spawned this initiative was even riskier. As you can see here, all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end markets. Sorry, you know I wasn't going to let you out without a cheesy waste joke, so at least it was a good one. On to specifications. So the game changed in 2019 when NatSpec and Transport for New South Wales updated their specifications to allow up to 2.5% RCG in the wearing course and 10% in each the base and subbase. Though roads perform well with higher percentages, these tolerances were capped to allow for accumulation of RCG through subsequent milling cycles. Collaborations with NatSpec and Transport for New South Wales were crucial. We worked very closely with NatSpec to lay the groundwork for local road specifications based on council trial data. Then, with Transport for New South Wales, to align specifications for local and state roads, establishing minimum RCG content in asphalt to meet recycled content requirements, and align strategies to preference RCG and parallel market approaches. In 2019, all 11 SSROC councils signed an MOU to prioritize recycled materials and procurement, strategically released the day before the COAG export ban timeline was announced. This signaled that councils were going to be an integral part of the supply chain moving forward. This enabled councils to signal a non-binding policy position and collaborate on a common procurement framework, while engaging council GMs and CEOs to delegate key staff. New South Wales Minister for Energy and Environment, Matt Keane, and Minister for Local Government, Shelley Hancock, lent strong support in a media release, which further legitimized the initiative. This was also an effective way to reach out to non-SSROC councils, as recycled content is very much on many councils' radars. An exciting outcome to our work with Transport for New South Wales was this guide on the use of RCG in asphalt, designed to put the question of whether RCG was ready for widespread use to rest. It was a great collaborative effort. SSROC provided the coordination and perspective of council engineers. Transport for New South Wales provided expertise on state road specifications, strong leadership, and confidence to stakeholders with regular updates to the New South Wales Transport Minister. The New South Wales EPA advised on the resource recovery order and exemption for recycled glass sand and other sticky regulatory concerns, while DPIME advised on the state of end markets and circular economy considerations. Here's an overview of the timeline. As you can see, the procurement was a long time in the making, initiated in 2018 and culminating this year with our Sustainable Pavements contract with 24 suppliers. Collaboration throughout this entire process, as you can see, was absolutely critical. So what has this accomplished? Demand from SSROC and Transport for New South Wales will more than double demand across the state, with about 20,000 tonnes per annum from each. The initiative has rerouted the 15% of Sydney glass previously sent to Victoria and South Australia for use in civil works and wine bottles. This will now be recycled locally without taking higher order glass away from container deposit bottle-to-bottle outcomes, while local glass will replace sand from distant quarries. This translates to a big reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Perhaps most remarkably, this has created a market for all recoverable surplus glass in participating council areas. So it took me a while to figure out this fancy little fireworks animation. So I'm going to let you enjoy it for a few seconds. And that's probably...
Oh, maximum enjoyment. Thank you, Justin.
Oh, beautiful. Always the crowd pleaser. Waste contracts. All right, that's probably good. So there has been a flurry of investment, including government grants and DA applications for new beneficiaries and capacity upgrades to existing ones. In terms of cost, not only did RCG not come at a premium, the contract will achieve up to a 20% cost savings for participating councils, demonstrating that sustainability doesn't need to cost more. The contract also has built-in monitoring and reporting of volumes of recycled materials used and greenhouse gas emissions avoided, as well as an innovation clause that allows councils to continually upgrade to more sustainable materials. So as you can see, this wins on all fronts, driving economic stimulus and jobs, solving the surplus glass problem, and showing the community that councils are working hard to ensure every last bottle they put in the recycling bin is indeed recycled. So what's next? We're currently developing digital communication assets for participating councils to emphasize the community's important role in a circular economy through proper recycling, and that councils are working to ensure every last bottle that goes into the yellow lidded bin will be recycled. We're collaborating with DPIME to conduct a cost-benefit analysis of the direct and indirect environmental, economic, and social impacts of the initiative, which will also be used as a case study for state government procurement targets. The first roads with RCG as part of this contract will be laid from July 2021. And after glass, we're already scoping the next very exciting phase of Paving the Way, leveraging the innovation clause in this contract to increase the use of recycled plastics in roads and more sustainable concrete. So this is the first of hopefully many advances in road sustainability to come. Thank you for listening, everybody. I would now like to introduce Mark Wood to discuss our procurement and contract model. With over 30 years experience in local government engineering, Mark has extensive experience in road pavement and waste management and recycling. Mark developed an interest in the sustainable reuse of materials to reduce the reliance on natural materials for road construction in the late 1990s. With the initial use of crushed concrete as granular pavement in 1996, the trial of glass cullet as a coarse sand replacement in 2010, through to the 2018 road resurfacing project to demonstrate the use of recycled glass, soft plastic, and toner cartridges for the asphalt industry. Mark possesses several qualifications, including a master's degree in local government management and civil engineering qualifications. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks, Justin. Hello, everyone. I'm presenting today on, as Justin pointed out, the contract development process and the outcome of the tender. So the process of any joint procurement contract is to ensure that the contract meets the needs or requirements of the participating councils. So in this case, we had originally had 11 SSROC councils to consult with. And what we did there, we had individual meetings were held with each of the councils with the purpose of these meetings to seek feedback on their current contract requirements. And we had this discussion about basically what was working well, what can be improved, and what would you like to see in a future contract. As well as consulting with the councils, we undertook ECI, which is Early Contractor Intervention Sessions, where SSROC invited the asphalt, road construction and waste recycling industry to participate in an industry forum. The forum was a success in that we had 32 participants from 12 different organisations who were all encouraged to ask questions and make comments with some anonymity to help us develop the tender specifications. This slide here is basically just a simple layout of the timeline for the procurement process, which was developed as part of the procurement plan, which we developed back in June 2020. I think a particular note is to make sure that you allow sufficient lead time in those early stages for consultation with both councils and industry. In this contract, it was extremely helpful for developing the specification and to document the KPIs for the tender documents. Overall, the procurement has gone to plan, with councils now in the process of seeking endorsement from their councils and to start the contract on the 1st of July. So based on consultation from the participating councils and the industry forum, a set of, I guess, guiding principles for the tender specifications was developed. And these were a sustainable procurement process. This required the suppliers to provide details on their business sustainability practices, including some of their recycled products, recycling, waste disposal, or energy and water saving practices. We also included a recycling focus. So the original objective of the tender was to create a contract that provided some certainty to the market for RCG to be embedded into the asphalt material supply chain. We're also looking for the contract to measure other recycled products, such as the use of wrap, crumbed rubber, as well as increasing the demand for these products. The next one was the collaborative focus, as Justin pointed out, but it was very important. And as also indicated in the previous slide, the development of a tender specification and a contract model had to have a collaborative focus in that the extensive consultation with council and industry to make sure the contract would meet the needs of industry and councils. We also looked at having a longer term contract. So for this contract, we've actually gone for a 3-year plus 2 years options. A longer term contract was needed as the recycling sustainability objectives do require some longer lead times in order to measure the success of the contract. So hence we went for a longer contract. The next issue we had there was sustainability reporting. As an issue was, I guess, identified during the consultation process with councils that a lot of the current construction contracts, there was a lack or no reporting on any sustainability measures. So we include that into the contract. And the last one there we've got is performance reporting, and that's performance reporting not only for the contractor suppliers, but also for councils. So the current contracts being used by councils specified some reporting requirements, but the problem was there was little follow-up on these reports once the contract had been signed. A PCG was developed for the procurement process, and the PCG worked on the tender specifications in the contract model, as in this slide. It was agreed that the contract would include the 7 service specifications. So 4 of the specifications: supply of asphalt, supply and lay of asphalt, mill and fill, and asphalt patching, included the use of recycled crushed glass in the pricing schedule. The other 3 specifications, concrete pavement patching, pavement stabilisation, and pavement rejuvenation, were all included because they met sort of the requirement of having sustainable pavements for road construction overall. The second section there is contract performance. So in establishing contract performance, we asked the council for some key requirements during the consultation phase. So previous contracts basically measured performance on timeliness and price, so they were basically economic indicators. And whilst these were really important, it was decided to expand the KPIs to include other things. So we've included environmental reporting in the KPIs. We've got resource efficiency, so we're looking at the percentage or tonnes of recycled product supplied to councils. We're looking at energy carbon emissions. By that, we're looking at energy and carbon reporting from the asphalt suppliers, so they already do that as part of their regular reporting through their supply chains. We're looking at waste to landfill. So we're looking for diversion from landfill, from excavated or milled material. So we know what percentage of material that is milled out of roads is actually used back into asphalt, or it is, does go to landfill. We're looking at economic or financial reporting. So we're looking at the dollars per tonne, unit rates, dollars per tonne or dollars per square metre. We're looking also at response time. So that's the program timelines for suppliers to actually deliver their programs in accordance with the works. We've also got a innovation. Innovation requires the suppliers to report monthly on any innovation or changes to improve the service delivery or products. This will be achieved by introducing an innovation register into the contract reporting framework. All of these performance criteria will be supported by the SSROC management and governance structure to collate and record the monthly supplier reports and report quarterly to the participating councils, and to meet with the suppliers on annual reporting meetings. So the contract model, I guess with the contract model, there are probably now two traditional contracts being used across the road construction industry. One is the supply contract, where suppliers are requested to bid on or quote for a package of works through an online tender portal such as Vendor Panel. And this contract is supported by a pricing schedule which has a ceiling price or a maximum price for a range of services. And in this contract, the council would receive the best spot price for the works being tendered at the time. The other is a scheduled rates of contract with a single supplier, where council had tendered it for a range of services, engaged the supplier for a period of time with a set schedule of rates. What we've established with this new contract, we've developed, I guess it's a bit of a hybrid model for the 15 participating, so it actually provides some flexibility for councils on their individual circumstances. That is, a council has the ability to either use the supply panel by using Vendor Panel, or they can use a contractor schedule of rates, or a combination of those across the contract term. So I guess in summary, the contract model is you've got a select panel contract supported by a competitive schedule of rates. It's a 3-year contract with 2 1-year extensions, and SSROC will manage the contract by taking up a 0.75% management fee. The last point I've got there is the project governance. Right now, project governance for the development of the tender specification is also critical. The PCG that was formed from all the participating councils represented the key functional areas for the contract. So what we had on the PCG, we had some specialist staff from councils, from engineering, the procurement areas, sustainability and resource recovery. As well as developing the tender docs, another key role of the PCG was to keep all the other participating councils informed. This was undertaken by online workshops and meetings during the COVID lockdown period last year. And as mentioned earlier, the PCG was instrumental in representing all of the councils for the earlier contract interventions, so at that workshop. So I just want to touch here on the, I guess, the 4 key clauses within the contract which are improvement, I think, on current contracts. The first one that we've got there is KPIs, is monitoring and evaluating performance. So what will happen here, SSROC will monitor the successful vendor's performance through the agreement with KPIs which have been stipulated. So that includes timeliness of the service, provisions of management of your accuracy of the reports which are submitted, some compliance with the agreed performance indicators, which we touched on before, about resource efficiency or recycled products, energy carbon emissions in our waste to landfill, and will also require suppliers to attend an annual performance review meeting conducted by SSROC. The second clause we've got there is benchmarking, in particular benchmarking across the zones. So this clause has been included for councils to view the unit rates and quantities of recycled materials for all of the participating councils. And they can use this to look at ways of improving their own performance for delivery of services. So an example here may be that a council may be having a different unit rate to a surrounding council. So what they can look at there is why this has happened. And they can also maybe look at maybe something as simple as the way they've programmed their work, so it's costing them more to get the works done. We've also got reporting, so which all suppliers will provide a monthly report. The monthly report will be logged through a online portal, And SSROC will be collating those reports and using that information to report on the KPIs. The fourth clause there is the innovations clause. Now, basically what this clause here is, it requires suppliers to seek and deliver benefits and introduce innovations across the term of the contract. It's particular attention, I guess, what Justin's last slide on what we're trying to do into the future. So this particular clause has been put into the contract so suppliers can register what improvements or service they're looking to do over the term of the contract. So basically, the suppliers will include any innovations or benefits in their monthly report. We'll collate that and put that into the contract reporting. So that's an important part of the clause. Okay, so the tender is up. So basically, the submitted pricing schedules were all very competitive and provided councils with a choice of either, as we wanted, either a use of schedule rates or to seek quotations via vendor panel from the panel of suppliers. The contract, as we said, it is a select panel contract. There is a competitive schedule rates. It is 3 years plus 2 years. There is a 0.75% management fee from SSROC. The important thing is we have now got an industry adopted standard for RCG and asphalt. We estimate the value of the contract is in the order of around $80 million per annum. One of the benefits, or one of the things we came out of the contract, there is no premium price for the use of RCG and asphalt. We have created a market for the use of RCG in Sydney. As Justin pointed out before, council's collected glass is now being used in roads, and we've now got environmental performance reporting undertaken monthly on roads contracts. So that's all for me right now. I'd now like to hand over to Kathy Dizon, who is the Strategic Procurement and Contracts Manager at SSROC. Kathy will provide you further details on how SSROC will support the participating councils by managing the contract. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Mark. My name is Kathy Dizon. I've been working in the industry doing procurement for many years and looking forward for more. How will this contract be managed? SSROC will undertake the ongoing contract management for all participating councils. In addition to monitoring contractor performance against KPIs, 12 months following the contract commencement, we will evaluate the contract effectiveness to determine the accuracy of our data and have we achieved our forecast by conducting an economic cost-benefit analysis. SSROC engaged prevention partner as the probity advisor during the project and ongoing if required. To implement, measure, and to report sustainability in procurement, it's always been a challenge for our councils. To assist, SSROC engaged a consultant to partner with our procurement departments in councils to create a sustainable procurement process, supplier reporting guidelines, and e-learning tools. It will also set a standard and consistency in the sustainable procurement approach across our councils. Participating councils via SSROC Enterprise and Vendor Panel will be assured that price increases, insurances, and licenses are current and up to date. Though we have achieved a very competitive schedule of rates, engineers can also seek quotations via SSROC Vendor Panel license. Vendor Panel training for suppliers and buyers will be conducted prior to 1st of July 2021. And as this contract is for 3 years with an option to extend for further 2 years, SSROC will facilitate the ongoing innovation of contract materials and methodology between councils and contractors during this period. You want to know more? contact our office. Do you want to join our contract? Contact our office on telephone number 8396-3800 or email us on pavingtheway@ssroc.newsouthwales.gov.au, giving us the reference for procurement of sustainable pavements, Paving the Way. On behalf of SSROC, we would like to acknowledge and say our thanks to SSROC general managers, in particular to Ms. Monica Baroni, CEO of the City of Sydney, Transport for New South Wales, NATSPEC, SSROC engineers and procurement managers, EPA, Mark Wood from Morrison & Law, and to our successful contractors, 24 of you in total. We couldn't have completed the whole procurement journey without your valuable time and support. Thank you.